Welcome back to Wire with Nolan RECC. Today's episode features Melinda Redmond and Bobby Ash, both Nolan employees who are retiring after decades of service to co-op members.
I started in 1993, March of 1993. I started as a cashier at the front desk, and I was there probably, I think it was about 5 years. And then I went to a customer service rep, and I was there for many years. And after that, I was a cashier supervisor. Loved that role. And then I went to corporate services manager and loved that role. I was allowed to kind of make that my own. And so yeah, that was what I did over the last 31 years. So I started out at the old building that was over on East Dixie. And I think we were there 6 years. I think 6 years, something like that. And then I remember coming over here when it was dirt floors and going through and getting lost. So anytime we have new hires and we, bring them in, I get why they get lost, because I got lost, And so when I was hired, I was actually hired in with the meter reader group, even though she told me she hired me for a cashier, because I came in with the retail experience and a lot of cashier experience, but I came in with the meter reader group, and I thought that's actually what I was going to be hired for. That is so not me. That is so not me, like climbing fences and traipsing through the mud. That is so not me. But she hired me for cashier. And so when I started here, everything was written on paper. Like service orders were all filled out on paper. Readings were turned in on paper, called in over the phone. Members did their own turning in the readings and everything. Yeah. There was a place on your bill where you turned in your reading and everything. And then in billing, they keyed in everything in the computer. So we had one due date. So when I was a cashier, on the due date, they were lined up out the door, everybody paying their bill on the same day. That was daunting. And then with the meter reading, we went to 4 different billing cycles. So then we changed computer systems. And Nolan has always been very technology forward for the electric industry. They have always been on top of that. So I had no computer experience, very, very, very little computer experience. So everything I learned was on the job training. And I'm not afraid to ask for help. When we changed computer classes, or from one computer system to another, I asked for help. I was like, I got to practice, because I wait on a lot of people, and if you have people in front of you that are upset or they don't understand their bill, it's hard enough, and I need to know this inside and out. And I was not afraid to speak up. Well, everybody else was right there with me, and they were glad that I spoke up and asked for help, because everybody else stayed. And at the time, the CEO that we had at the time was very willing to let us, get all the practice that we needed to learn the system. And actually, the guy from NISC that came to help us, he said when we went through the transition that we were the best prepared co-op that he'd ever been through. So it really paid off. But that's been the biggest challenge, is just, staying on top of technology, because Nolan has always been very technology forward. But when I was in service, we took phone calls, we waited on walk-in members, we returned all phone calls the same day. So if we had to stay till 7 o'clock that night returning phone calls, we stayed till 7 o'clock that night returning all phone calls. The ice storm changed how we did business. The ice storm was daunting, and that just about broke me. The ice storm is what got us to have a call center, because there were so many people off for so long. We just couldn't handle all of the calls. We worked 2 weeks straight without a day off, 10, 12-hour days every day, doing the best we could. So that changed how we did business a lot. That's when we changed where, everybody had to have underground service if they had an upgrade or if they had new service. I was really surprised that we went to that, but in hindsight, that was the best thing that we ever did, because that prevented so much more outages. So that was a good thing. But that's what got us the call center, and that really helped, a lot, taking over calls from that. So, yeah, when I look back at what all we did, it was a lot. So that was a big reprieve. So there's some good things that came out of the ice storm that at the time, I thought it was the worst thing I'd ever experienced, but there were some good things that came out of it. I have met all types of people, all walks of life, all different case scenarios of people's life situation. It has really expanded my outlook on people's lives and what people go through. You just can't imagine, all of the different situations that people go through. And it's really, it tugs at your heartstrings, you meet some wonderful, wonderful people, and some people you can help and some people you can't. And those that you're not able to help sometimes just really, hurt your heart if you can't help them. But Nolan is really, really good about doing everything they can within their limitations to help people. So, we've met some really wonderful people. And the people that I have worked with over the years, Nolan is like a big family, and I have met some wonderful people while working here. And, I know some people don't find this hard to believe, but I was so shy and quiet when I started working here. And it's really helped me come out of my shell, dealing with the different people and different situations and everything. And I'm a better person for it, I really am. And but I have met some wonderful people, both in the public and that work here, that really, you just take with you. So it's been it's a big eye-opening experience.
I started as a lineman, March of 1987. Before I came into dispatch, I was a service guy. We used to have to read meters here once a year. We did line inspection, just whatever was needed at that time. And then when we started dispatch, I'm one of the original 4. So I was one of the 4 who started in dispatch. So it was in the old office down on Dixie Highway, and they actually converted a closet into the dispatch room. It was very small, 2 computers. That's when it was called SCADA, but more or less we could watch and do stuff at the substations is what that is. So that's when that all started, and we took over Fort Knox, and that was part of the deal, I think, with Fort Knox, is we had to provide 24-hour dispatch service. I'd say I've been in dispatch 28 to 30 years, Yeah, I can't tell you exact. I don't, somewhere in that ballpark, yeah. You know, when I came, we had 14 substations, now we have 24. 8,000 or 9,000 consumers. I think I was told this morning we're over 37,000. There was no cell phones. There was no, computers are very limited, so we had map books. Well, I was showing some guys this morning the old map books. Everything we did got printed. So whether we sent the service guys out to do a read for change, connect, disconnect, build disconnects, it was all printed on pieces of paper. And so then we would divvy it out, and we didn't have phones, so everything was done on the radio. So we didn't. Prime example, the first big storm we worked in this room was designed differently than it is now. And we had a table run from one end of the room to the other, and we had stacks of paper grouped by substations. So it was just stacks of papers by every sub. So when you had a guy out working, you would literally have to go over and go through the stack of papers to find him what to give him next. So everything was done by map block numbers back in the day, not meter numbers. You didn't have no computers to look nothing up. We didn't have pole numbers. You know, there was meter numbers and transformer numbers, but everything was done by map blocks. So we didn't say, if the old timers might know your street where you lived, but it was like the 2217 block, or that's how we learned. And it was all done on a paper map book. So to see what I've seen here in my time to the technology we have now, you know, the meters, when they go off, we know it before they call. If we lose something at the substation, we know it. You know, we have cell phones now, which, you know, we still try to troubleshoot on the radio, but having cell phones when they're away from their truck, you know. So yeah, the technology that I've seen in my, well, middle of March starts 38. It's been a lot. I'll give you a prime example. When we have a three-phase circuit go out, we can actually run numbers now to try to get them in a ballpark where to start looking. So it's really cut our response time and our outage times down tremendously because of that. You know, not having to get all these phone calls, knowing now what is out when it calls in, the outage management will predict back to a line that is out or a section of area that is out, so you already know what area is out within, you know, a couple minutes. Where in the past you'd had to take all these phone calls and try to figure it out. Now, because of the work like Judy does with mapping and our OMS, it lets you at least know where you got to go. And that has taken so much time away, and that's a really big deal because, you know, back in the day, I was telling the story this morning, you know, if you had trouble at night, you would send somebody back to the breaker and they'd close it in, you'd look for the sky to light up. And because you didn't have this technology, you know, you didn't have all this stuff to give you an idea where to go. A lot of lines back in the day, you know, were off the road. You know, and I've been here long enough to work 2 major ice storms, so a lot of stuff's been built on the roads now. You know, we have this Hendrix wire, which is more durable, a lot better. So it's just, storm made us better by being able to do moving stuff out of the fields and on the roads. But yeah, it's just kind of crazy what I've got to witness in my time here. Well, when I started learning to be a lineman, I knew how to climb a pole. I worked at cable TV, but I didn't know any kind of line work as far as electricity wise. So that was a challenge. You know, old school foremans were rough. They were tough. They were hard on you, but you accepted it and you just did your job. You just came to work. We only had 2 bucket trucks when I started, and one was on a heavy duty construction, and the other was a maintenance truck. So the 2 crews that built all the taps and stuff, as stuff started building, you climbed everything. So, and you just had to suck it up. When them older guys get on you, you just did it. You just came to win. You didn't say nothing. You just worked. You know, I've been very blessed to have some great guys working in this room, and when all crap breaks loose, that's a very big deal. So yeah, it's. I think my biggest challenge for me was when I came into dispatch. Very little college. We never had a computer growing up. I don't know if I knew anybody had a computer. I took typing in high school, probably because I hated school and I was trying to get by some easy classes. I took 2 semesters of basic computer to learn to do my job right in here so I could learn to use a computer. But my typing skills, I remembered. I remembered my keys on my keyboard. So that made that easier. So that was probably my biggest challenge. And we've had a lot of challenges when we've went from map books to mapping, from all the paper copies into everything that's computerized now. And now we send it, when we first started not trying to print, they had laptops. And the old servicemen didn't like it, because nobody used a computer. I think people were afraid of it. We were the same way when we came in here. We were all ex-linemen who started dispatch. So, it was a big challenge for everyone. And now this iPads, and now you just send everything to them. Or if there's a big outage, we can call them and they can see it on their iPad. So it's technology's been amazing with this industry, and for the good. Being able to get power restored during major storms. I know what it was like to work an ice storm out as a lineman. Hadn't been here very long when that first one hit, and it was as bad as the '09 one, but we didn't have as many consumers, but we had poles broke everywhere, trees broke. But then to get to experience that from this side of the thing is, it's mental. This job in here at times is really mentally. So you have to, I don't know that, but I think getting the power restored during outages. But the most important thing is for those guys to go home every night. So people ask me about Nolan and Greg. I've worked for 3 CEOs, all different, from an Army guy to Mickey. Mickey was a great guy, but he came from the member services side of things. Greg co-opted as a college student here, but when my oldest son died, it was right start of COVID, and couldn't have a funeral, so we did a graveyard service, and we came up the road. Greg had every Nolan truck parked on the side of the road. And I still can't talk about it. But when we came up that road and seen all them Nolan trucks sitting on the side of that road, and I didn't know to this morning, Brad, my dispatcher, was actually in that crowd. You don't know what that meant, and the people that we know in the community that found out about that, what they said about it, how positive it was. So everybody in my vehicle was bawling like a baby because I didn't know it. They kept it. They did a good job of keeping it a secret. So, but I just, if Greg sees this, I do want him to know what that meant. I'm gonna tell him, but I've enjoyed my time here, and I still don't mind my job. I'm just tired. Been doing this a long time, and I want to see what's next in life, and me and my wife do some stuff, and spend some time with my parents, and I found out I'm going to be a grandpa in the middle of March also. So the thing about this job is you're married to it, and your family has to understand that when everything breaks free, your personal life stops, and so as long as your family's on board with that, it works. But it's just how it is. I can't believe it's time. The time's coming up now. So I've been reminiscing back. So we started in the old office to how things were and how things are now. And we were talking about this morning, and it's pretty crazy, everything I've seen.
Thanks for joining us for Wire to Wire with Nolan RECC.